Hello, welcome to this edition of City Hall Insider. I'm Jim Marshall. We've got two guests coming up today to talk about a variety of things. The port in one case, hurricane preparedness in the other. But first, we'll talk about the port with the port director, Ed-Washburn, joining us today, and Anthes-Washburn, I should mention. Thanks for coming in, a repeat guest and a busy man, to say the least, right now.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Always happy to make time for you and City Hall Insider.
You've got so much going on right now down there. It's crazy. First, though, talk about how the pandemic has impacted what is taking place on a daily basis down at the port.
Sure. No, it's a great question, and from very early on, like a lot of folks that were in office space, very quickly that first week everything just shifted online, right? So outside meetings where folks would be coming in sort of shifted online, and then there's a huge number of other meetings that came up because of COVID-19. And from pretty early on, our main focus was to make sure things like making sure the fishing industry and the processing houses were deemed essential, part of the food system. Mm-hmm. Really critical early on to make sure as those quarantine orders were coming in that the fishing industry could continue to operate because of their role in the global food system. So that was a big part of what we did and we're focused on. And then just port operations generally, having our staff, obviously most of our staff was still going in, maintaining piers and that sort of thing.
I was going to say, you're a type of department, for lack of a better word, that can't really just do Zoom.
Right.
I mean, you've got to physically be there.
Yeah. So we shifted as many operations as we could remotely, and we're still, our building in the Wharfinger building is small. There's no social distancing in the Wharfinger building. So, we've shifted as much as we can online, and we've done that. The timing of the actual pandemic was, it fell at a time where we were kind of about to ramp up for the summer.
Yep.
So we were able to figure out how to change our operations in ways that we could quickly respond to customers. The timing of it worked out well for things like recreational boating, and recreational boating is something that can be done in socially distanced. So we were able to figure out and react pretty quickly to how are things going to change in terms of our operations, and what do we need to do to still focus on the customer and make sure that we're providing first and foremost safe access to the water for all of our different customers.
You have different industries, if you will, within your one industry, and you talked about the recreational boating and fishing, and how are they doing compared to previous years because of the pandemic?
Yeah, it's another great question. Pretty early on, when you close every single restaurant in the world, mm-hmm. That's going to have a pretty big impact on things like scallops, right? A lot of people outside of our region, typically only eat seafood when they're in a restaurant, because it's a special occasion kind of thing. Some consumers are, they're not, again, outside of New Bedford. New Bedford is sort of a unique case.
Especially when you're inland and stuff like that.
Yeah. People don't generally go directly to seafood when they're at a supermarket. So one thing that happened pretty early on was the price fell pretty quickly, and there was a few changes that happened regulatory-wise. The scallopers were able to take their days that they hadn't used yet, and over the course of the next 6 months, they were able to figure out how to use those days in a longer time frame. So there wasn't a huge economic incentive to go out. So those that didn't have to didn't, and that helped the price. And the price since then has stabilized quite a bit since about mid-April. So the price seems to be pretty good. And as restaurants open up and that kind of thing happens, that is very good for the price. Another thing, silver linings. Another thing that's happened, as I'm sure you've seen on social media and things like that. There's more and more direct-to-consumer selling of seafood. There's, I know Tempest has done it, Blue Harvest has done it, and individual fishermen can get a retail permit and sell directly off their boat. I know they've done that in Fairhaven. So there's been a lot more of that, and it's been amazing to see the entrepreneurial nature of the fishing industry and the fishermen, how quickly they were able to see, look, there's a lot of people that are now only eating in their houses, obviously, because of the quarantine. It's amazing to see how quickly they were able to kind of tailor their operation to take advantage of new buying habits of consumers, and I think it's something that they were able to react quickly, and hopefully as we come out of this, they'll be able to find new markets for their seafood.
Have you seen an uptick though, slow as it may be, an uptick in sales and
certainly
catch?
with the summer coming and restaurants reopening, there's certainly more activity now than there were in the first few weeks.
Right.
So things are coming back online, but like I said, that there was throughout this whole process, the fishing industry and the processors were continuing to operate. And
recreational boating too. Obviously, this is, as you mentioned, this is the prime time for you. But I drove by the marina. Look, there's a good amount of boats. I don't know where you stand as far as previous years, but it looks like people are doing that.
Yeah, no, we were able to because through the governor's guidelines and the mayor's guidelines with the Department of Public Health, we were able to figure out pretty quickly that there are certain activities that can happen throughout the quarantine, and recreational boating is one of them. So the boat ramps and things like that never closed. We did delay the opening of the marina by a few weeks, just because it was hard to understand how are we going to offer services like the bathrooms and do that safely in the middle of the height of the pandemic. But by early May, we were able to figure out how to do that, so we were able to hire some of our seasonal staff back and open up the marina, and we had the launch running by Memorial Day. So again, going with the guidelines from the reopening task force from the governor's office. So, and I'm actually on the reopening task force for recreational boating. So a lot of the things that we instituted in the month of May was what they use for the rest of the Commonwealth.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So we were able to pretty early on, again, because of the timing, we were able to figure out, all right, how can we tailor our operations to this new normal? And how do we do it in a way that, one, first and foremost, maintains the safety for our customers and our staff, but how do we operate in this new normal environment in a way that people can still enjoy the water?
Are you still getting the cargo ships too?
The cargo ships, typically this time of year, there's fewer and fewer. It's
okay.
Mostly a winter service. So that wasn't impacted by COVID-19. There was some, Customs and Border Protection kind of things, when we did have a lot of survey vessels continue to come in for surveying for the offshore wind industry.
That's what I was kind of driving at, because where the ships are coming in, you know where they're coming from, but is it safe to have them come in, I guess?
Yeah, so they would all have to follow the 14-day quarantine rule, and CBP, Customs and Border Protection, would handle that kind of stuff. But we were continuing to operate throughout that, and operating at a pretty high level. Some of our projects, like the dredging project, we started it, and they're already. I had a conversation this morning. They're already 65% done with that first project, just in the last 2 months. So we've had to adapt quickly and stay on the ball, just to make sure all the projects that we had in the hopper, were able to continue. We still had to execute all of them. I
was going to ask, because the port is such a huge economic driver, probably the economic driver in the city. $11 billion plus a year it brings in. The development that you have, and I remember the last time of year you were talking about the developments that you had in the pipeline.
Yep.
Are they still, because of this, are they still going forward?
They are, yeah. Actually, the bids for our dredging project were due the 18th of March, which was right in the height
right at the start, yeah.
So we were able to, we extended that bid by a week, and we got bids back. We awarded that bid, and J. Cashman Dredging Corporation, they got the contract, and they started in early May. And at the height of it, we had 4 dredges going, so they were able to produce quite a bit. And like I said, they're still doing what we call the bottom of CAD. So they're in the process of doing that now, and we're in design now for the North Terminal extension. So by the end of the summer, we'll be out to bid on that, hopefully awarding by November, and under construction with that. And the projects are together, so we'll take the material from the dredging will be used as fill for the new bulkhead.
Because it's so important for you to keep these going, because you've got a schedule for down the road for other things too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a little touch and go there, those first few weeks. It was unclear whether or not folks were going to have to stay at home, whether or not everybody was going to have to stay home, what that looked like. So we were kind of playing it by ear for a while there, but once we got the green light, we had to go quickly, and we have.
Can you talk about a little bit, we got a couple minutes left, but Offshore Wind, where we stand on how the port and the use of the facilities for the offshore wind companies?
Yeah, so again, Offshore Wind continues to go through the permitting process. There was a supplemental environmental impact statement that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management put out. So that's out for comment now, between now and the end of July. So they're continuing to go through their regulatory process, and so everything continues to be on track there. Vineyard Wind will deploy from the New Bedford Marine Commerce Terminal for their project in the next few years. And then Mayflower Wind will do the same thing after that. So,
and it impacts you, even though you're not at the Marine Commerce Terminal, but the business the expertise that you offer and the things that you offer down there are going to be impacted.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the meantime, our New Bedford Ocean Cluster Initiative, which is commercial fishing, it's aquaculture, it's IoT, Internet of Things technology, and it's offshore wind, and it's creating a network of businesses that are current port users, right? So that are mostly tailored to the fishing industry, but fabrication, welding, providing the supplies for offshore vessels. Yeah. All of those businesses right now that can easily be engaged in the offshore wind supply chain. We're working right now to start to develop a network of those businesses, those local businesses that can easily partner with an offshore wind company, or just provide services to an offshore wind company, so that we quickly, we get as much of the economic benefit from a big construction project like the Vineyard Wind project and the Mayflower project after that. As much of that can be located in the port as we can. And that takes a lot of legwork in the years ahead of the project to make sure everybody has their I's dotted and their T's crossed. And
the scary thing is when you talk about that, you look what you're doing now, and when that is implemented down the road, think just how much more the port will be doing.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that, really.
Yeah, and it also, my staff and I and the commission, we understand that there's a lot of things that are coming, and we need to quickly get ready now in order to be able to make sure that the economic benefit that we can realize in the port happens. That means we have to do work today for something that's not going to happen for another 2-3 years. Right. That's how important it is. That's how long these things take to develop. And I think the work we're doing now, under the leadership of the mayor and the rest of my commission, the work that we're doing now, we will be very appreciative of it when these opportunities do come, and we're able to take them and run with them and expand upon them.
It's good seeing you.
Good to
Time
see
went
you.
Fast.
Yeah.
Ed Anthes-Washburn, Port Director for the City of New Bedford, one of the busiest guys in government, that's for sure. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me,
and
Jim.
We'll see you again soon.
It. Great.
We'll be back. Brian Nobrega, the Director of Emergency Management, will be our guest coming up. You're watching City Hall Insider. Welcome back to City Hall Insider. I'm Jim Marshall. Again, thanks to Ed for coming in, but now we are with Brian Nobrega. He is the Director of Emergency Management for the city. He hasn't been too busy over the last few months, to say the least.
No.
Thanks for coming in, though. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
So, sort of the same thing I asked Ed sort of to start it off. You've been directly involved with the COVID-19 response for the city since day one and even before that, I know in January.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about, and I want to get to the hurricane because that's the purpose, but just where does the city stand right now from your perspective?
So basically, the COVID-19 response citywide is being head up by Damone Chaplin.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of do like an incident command. So in a pandemic, we lead towards the public health, and that's the same thing with the state as well. Emergency management, we're handling like the logistics. So one big thing that we did is PPE, as you know, for first responders, for our essential workers that, some of the workers, city employees could go home and work on their computer. But as you know, people like DPI, if a sewer block happens or a water, they got to go out and fix it. Same thing with our facilities department. So that was one of the big tasks. I can say that the city under Mayor Mitchell's guidance and the whole task force, I think we're, as you can see, our numbers have flattened. Is it still something that we're monitoring? Of course, I think we're going to be monitoring for this for months. Hopefully not years, but
you don't realize either how many. I'm sorry, but you don't realize how many departments actually are, for lack of a better word, essential.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Even us here at Cable Access,
correct,
because we have been here through the whole thing, like you and like other departments, generating programming, whatever. But we've been going out in the public. I know we got our PPEs and what have you.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of city departments, a lot of city employees who are essential.
Correct. And so let's take for instance the NB mass distribution. So that planning started in April with Joseph Abood. We got them to make the masks. It was a heavy task to make so many masks so we could hand out and make sure we didn't have enough. But that mass distribution was community services under Cynthia Walkwist, DPI under Jamie, DFFM even helped out, the police department, the fire department, EMS, my department. We also had the libraries were helping out as well. So it was just that one operation took probably 10 out of what the city has, about 30 departments, So yeah, everyone, and it's tough because you call somebody and they're working, but they're really not working in the office. So then you got to try and track them down. So yeah, it was every department has some kind of essential function. Even the park department, because we were using their staff to hand out the masks and so forth. So
it's crazy too, because I know when we had Damone in here recently, he was, I asked him, and how many municipalities in the Commonwealth were able to give masks to every citizen who wanted one?
I think we were the only one.
And that's what he said.
Yeah,
and that's crazy.
And that was a great decision by Mayor Mitchell to say we're providing them. We did look into other communities; they were selling them for at cost. But the city, under Mayor Mitchell, said, nope, we're going to
And you gave some staggering numbers about how many you've given out so far.
So as of my last count, from the beginning, we're probably around 55,000. As you came to New Bedford High, those 6 days, we handed out, just on those 6 days, 17,000 masks to people who drove down to New Bedford High. Last Tuesday we did a community-based one at Riverside Park. We were there for about 2 hours. We handed out about 250 masks that day. We have another one coming up on Mandan on Saturday, and we got them scheduled throughout the rest of July and into August, right before school starts.
And as you said, right now there's no end in sight, so those masks are going to be needed at
No.
least for the next few months.
Yeah, and I think in my opinion, I think the mask is what's keeping our numbers relatively flat.
You're right.
And I think the people that are wearing them are helping the cause. Is it awful on a 90-degree day? But hey, it's one of those things that we're going to have to do to mitigate the pandemic.
Absolutely. Talking about now hurricane preparedness, I know this is something that you work on year-round, in a sense, because I think you had told me before, like you get a good blizzard or something like that, it's a big storm, and you're still preparing for that.
Yep.
But hurricanes, I know that they're looking at a busy year again. The National Hurricane Center said a busy year. I mean, they can't identify where they're going to go, but
Nope. But we already had one scale last weekend when
Yep.
originally we were getting reports of 3 to 5 inches coming right up the East
Tropical Storm
Coast
Faye,
at
yep.
Faye, and thankfully that went not over New Bedford, but it went over New York and dropped quite a bit of rain.
Tell us about the plans right now. I mean, not in details, but obviously the city does have a working plan, which you tweak every year. I know you're looking at ways to
to make it more efficient.
Exactly.
And, so each department's are responsible for their own items that fall under their wheelhouse. Like we were talking before, DPI works with the Army Corps of Engineers. You'll see them out before hurricane season testing the floodgates on the streets over on West and East Rodney French Boulevard, and then also on Paynerum Ave. So they'll close those, make sure those are operable. Hurricanes, we do sheltering, which with a pandemic.
And that's what I was just going to say. This has changed your
Yes,
ball game.
Correct. So in an ideal world, if we have a storm, be it a hurricane, a blizzard, or a large-scale power outage, we go to our one of two shelters, which is either Keith Middle School or New Bedford High School. And there's reasons why those are picked, because they got food supply, they got generator, they're in the middle of the city, they're easy accessible from the highway if we need to bring assets in.
Close to the hospital too.
Close to the hospital, correct. So unfortunately, during a pandemic, we really can't just shove 100 people into a gymnasium. So actually, this week is Hurricane Preparedness Week, and MEMA, who's the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, which we actually have the local region office in the city over at the Quest Center, which has been great, especially during this pandemic that they're local. They're going to be doing some guidance. So we're looking at that. We're going to adapt that. We're also hopefully going to be talking with the Red Cross. The Red Cross helped us out with the mass distribution. There's someone that specializes in sheltering. They went down to Hurricane, what's the big hurricane that hit New Orleans? But they go Katrina.
Yeah.
They were down there for months. They're doing, the nice thing about people in the Northeast is, if you have to shelter, I live in the South End, I just go to a family member's house. But down in like New Orleans, they fill up stadiums, and that's what Red Cross is equipped to do.
And people should know too that, I mean, when you open up the shelters, there are people that go there.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's not as though, I mean, these are needed facilities, and I know some people who are, I don't know if they're skeptical or whatever, would say, well, how many people really go there?
Yeah.
It depends on the storm. I've seen
Correct, yeah.
a number of people,
Right.
depending on the severity of the storm, go.
Right. So fortunately or unfortunately, I have not had the experience of opening up a shelter. We have prepped for shelters being open, but yeah, Hurricane Bob, which I was 5-6 years old. I still have the records from that, and there was 250 people in there. The blizzards of 13 and 15.
I was gonna say, the blizzards are what I remember.
The records show 45 to 50
Yep.
people. Even if there's 5 people, we still have to.
Right.
The city has its obligation to shelter them.
And this is an issue, and storm preparedness is such an issue because you're working on this all the time. I know that the mayor is in the past with us, for example, every department has to have sort of a game plan that you know of, so that you know what cable access is capable of in one case, or DFFM or what have you. So you've got a, for lack of a better word, a Bible, storm preparedness Bible.
I have like the master plan, but the thing that the most thing I've learned about this job is you want to plan for everything, but there's always that one thing that comes in that you didn't think of, and that's where we come in as a team together. We have Chief Cadero, Chief Cadea, we have Mark McGraw, we have Jamie Pomp, Mark Champagne, Cynthia Walkowitz, and those people that we can put everyone's heads together and we can solve a problem. I can tell you one thing, with that every problem that we've had with COVID-19, we've been able to come up with a solution to, except for a vaccine, of course. But yeah, so it's not just a one person telling everyone what to do. It's a team effort with all the departments.
For those that are watching at home right now or online, what are the things that they should be doing to prepare for a storm like this?
So there's a couple of things that we want to do, and like I said, it's Hurricane Preparedness Week this week, is that we want to know where you live. So if you live in a hurricane evacuation zone, thankfully in the city we have not, the whole city is in a hurricane evacuation zone, but as you know, down towards the peninsula, there's an A zone and a B zone. So under mass.gov, MEMA, there's a link that says know your zone. So you can come in and type in, 950 South Rodney French Boulevard. You type that in and it'll tell you what your storm surge could be and if you have to evacuate, and also what your evacuation zone is. I can tell you you're going to be evacuated over here.
Yeah.
I live also in the south end. I'm outside of both evacuation zones. Does that mean that you don't have to evacuate? No, you can evacuate whenever you want, because it's not just storm surge, it's wind damage, it's not having power for a couple of days. There's a bunch of things that come into that. Another thing that you want to come up with is a plan. So if you have to leave your house, where you're going to go. Are you going to go to a hotel? Are you going to go to another family's member? When are you going to leave? So when you have a hurricane that comes up here, you want to be in safety by the time the tropical storm winds arrive. And that's anything over, I believe, over 35 miles per hour sustained. So you want to be safe, and have other people know where you are by that time that happens. You want to make a kit. So make sure you have food for everyone. Make sure you have your medications. Now with this pandemic, you want to make sure you have face coverings. So just in case you have to go to a shelter or a community center, hand sanitizer, stuff like that. Medications is the big thing.
Yeah. Because
you want to make sure you have 3 to 5 days worth of supply. Make sure you know your medications. So if you don't have it, we can try and help you get it. And it's just have everybody in the family know what you're going to do in the time of any emergency.
And that's one of the things that people don't think of, because I don't know what storm it was, but we were talking in the group. I was at the police station as a group, and so-and-so didn't tell so-and-so where they were going to be, and there was panic set in, because, oh my gosh, where is the relative? That was an experience I think the police had.
Right, and we deal with that on fires too. So you got a six-unit apartment that people evacuate, and you go, oh, is everybody out? Oh, I got to go look. And so this goes through not only hurricanes, but fires in your house. Make sure you have some spot that everyone goes to in the whole house, so that we don't have to send assets in if we don't have to. If we have to, we're going to send them in.
Got about 20 seconds left. I just want to give you a chance. For people who want to have information about hurricane preparedness or whatever, where can they go find that?
So they can check the city's website. They also can go to mass.gov MEMA. There's a bunch of information on there. Red Cross's website has it. The other thing that I do want to mention is the NB Alert, which you guys helped us get that out.
Yep.
That's been huge during this pandemic. The mayors have sent out weekly updates, but that's not just because of the pandemic. That's if we want to get information out, that's how we're going to do it. So if we can get people to sign up for NB Alert, which is nbalert.com, you can sign up and get the reverse 911 calls.
Sounds good. Good seeing you again.
All right,
Thanks for coming in.
Yep, anytime.
Brian Nobrega, our guest here, talking about emergency management and hurricane preparedness. I'm Jim Marshall. You're watching City Hall Insider. Thanks for spending your time with us. We'll talk to you again soon.